Well, hey everybody, this is John Wolford, and this is my youth group, Godward Youth, and we are going to be showing these videos on YouTube every Wednesday, and we hope that this is a way that you can connect to God and just grow closer to Him, and you will meet some of our youth periodically throughout the days. But guys, I want to thank you for watching this, and if you're watching this, our YouTube channel will be called Radical Faith, and I hope you subscribe, watch, whatever you need to do to get these videos. But guys, we just welcome you to this. So well, guys and gals, we move on to our next month and our next series, and I absolutely love the title of this month's series. And the biblical person that we will be looking at, and that person is Moses. But I love the thought process of the series title, Beyond Belief. So many different things can be beyond our belief, and those things can trigger many different feelings that we have. So as we break down the life and times of Moses, we will look at some of the things that he or those around him may have been feeling and see if there are instances where our lives and those beyond belief moments can trigger those feelings in us. Even though we may not see lives as biblical, like the stuff that happens to Moses, we do experience that are biblical proportions because, as we know, God is in control. Before we get to the meat of the story, let's do a little prequel to our passage. The Israelites had been in bondage for over 400 years in Egypt. This bondage basically started when the pharaohs of the land noticed that the Israelites, they were 100% behind the plan had for growth amongst the people at the time, was to be fruitful and to multiply. And boy, were the Israelites really good at being fruitful and multiplying as they got to see a lot of the fruits running around in the Israelite camps. Since slavery was slowing down the population, since slowing down the slavery did not slow down the population, the pharaohs came up with some horrible plans. The first plan was the pharaoh called the Hebrew midwives, the ladies who helped deliver the babies born to the pregnant women in Israel. I wonder if they boiled water back then, and the fathers sat in waiting rooms back then, handing out cigars, because that was a thing back in my day. But that's a subject for another day. The pharaoh tells the midwives, if the woman gives birth to a baby girl, hand that baby over to the mother and allow it to live. If the baby is born a boy, kill it. How you feeling, fellas? How about that decree? Not so good. You should see some of the girls in here smiling about that, though. The midwives who loved God refused to carry out this deed and allow all the babies to survive. So you guys were let off the hook here. Because the midwives did this, it pleased God, and He blessed the Israelites with even more babies. Even the midwives had lots of babies. And I wonder if the midwives needed to have midwives. So catch this. When Pharaoh called in the midwives to see why they had not done the deed that he decreed, they said, "Oh, Pharaoh, you don't understand the Hebrew woman. They are strong, and they already delivered the babies before we got there." And the fruit kept falling from the Israelite trees. So Pharaoh decided to take things into his own hands and decrees that his men will go into Israel encampments, take all the babies, and chuck them into the Nile. Now, the Bible doesn't state if this happened for sure or give any numbers. So I researched this, and different tribes or countries around happened to put some numbers out. And the numbers range from 14,000 to 64,000, all the way up to 144,000 baby boys were thrown in the Nile. You boys feeling like a swim right now? Girls will have to ask you to take those smiles off your face. You might be scaring the fellas just a little bit. Now, a Hebrew woman decided that she would take a chance during this time to put her baby in a basket, set it afloat on the Nile, and hope for the best. And the best is what she got. The baby was collected out of the Nile by some servants who give it to, now catch this, the daughter of the Pharaoh who made the decree of killing the babies. Now wait. See that the baby was grabbed by the princess, I guess you will call her. The baby's sister, Miriam, talks to the princess and getting a Hebrew woman to be the baby's nanny. Who does she get? The baby's own mother, Jochebed. This very lucky or very blessed baby, well, we all know who it is. It is Moses. Moses grew up basically a prince of Egypt. But he was also taught his heritage. And one day while in Egypt, an Egyptian guard was beating a Hebrew slave. Moses loses his cool and kills the guard. Knowing the law of Pharaoh that even didn't matter what your status was, if you killed another Egyptian, the penalty for that was death. So Moses flees into the desert. Moses wanders for a while, comes to a place called Midian, meets its leader named Jethro, ends up marrying Jethro's daughter Zipporah, and becomes a shepherd, and all is good. Well, unless you were a slave back in Egypt, because another 40 years passes, and now we are up to date in our story. So if you have your Bibles or your phones, we are going to look at Exodus 3, 1 through 5. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angels of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land into good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh. to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God said, I will be with you. And this will be a sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to them, to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me for generation to generation. So, as I gave you the prequel part of the Moses story, we saw so many beyond belief moments, from evil thought processes to incredible bravery, to a mom becoming a nanny, and a princess unknowingly defying her own father, the Pharaoh, by collecting a Hebrew baby. But this passage is kind of where we see the rubber of beyond belief hit the road. Now I want to put all the visual stuff aside. The burning bush that never burns up, the fact that the bush is talking. I want to talk about the thing this beyond belief this beyond belief moment gives to Moses, and that is doubt. Moses taking in all the sights, burning bush, all the sounds, God actually speaking to him. Moses loses heart when he is commanded to action. He immediately drops all the going on to focus on one thing: his own shortcomings. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Do you blame Moses? Do you kind of see his side? I think in some way we all do, right? God is asking, no, strike that, telling Moses he is the guy who is going to free God's people. Not a small or simple task. Moses doesn't look at what is going on around him as beyond belief. What's beyond belief to him? The task. And I feel Moses does what we tend to do first: make excuses. But listen, God, we've been talking here, and can you not hear that I do not speak very well? I'm not in order. I'm not a pastor, and as a matter of fact, I stutter. Really bad. God tells Moses basically that he will be there with Moses, giving him the words to say. Then Moses goes to an old, reliable for a lot of us. Well, God, what if they ask me who sent me? What do I tell them? He played the I'm not very bright card, right? Also known as playing stupid. But God was ready for that. Ever notice it's hard to play stupid when the person is already giving you the answers? I am who I am. Tell them I am sent you. Then God, I feel, gives a bit of a clarifier for those who may still not quite get it. Say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. I also want you to notice that God is telling Moses what he is going to say to the Israelites. Not the Egyptians. We kind of lose track of that. He's telling him what he's going to say to his people. We see that Moses is going to have to convince the Israelites as well as the Egyptians that he is indeed the one sent by God to free his people. Yeah, no pressure here. Do you see where Moses may have just a smidgen of doubt being given this unbelievable task? But here's the thing, guys. Doubt is normal. How we respond to the pressure of doubt is also very different in everyone. There are those who see doubt as a challenge and try to immediately find ways to overcome them. Some will wait to see if there is help of some shortcoming, and still others will completely shut down and just give up. I know that only the adults in this room were actually born on September 11th, 2001. It was a day when the whole world was thrown into doubt. It was the day that the worst terror attack on U.S. soil ever occurred. Osama bin Laden organized a group of men to fly planes into some of the most iconic and heavily populated buildings in the U.S. The first plane had hit the first tower of the World Trade Center, and the news was showing live reports from the scene. The news was telling everyone that a small commuter plane had hit the tower. They thought it was a small plane that was flying too low, had just run into the building. It was an accident. As the news feed was playing, all of a sudden you could see a 777 plane comes into view. It seemed to disappear behind the building for just a second or two. Then there was a giant explosion on the other side of the building. We could see the second tower, the second plane had hit the second tower. It was live on TV, and the news broadcast seemed oblivious to it at first. Then one of the reporters on the scene informs the broadcaster at the station and says, "Another plane has just hit the other tower." And in that moment, like I said, the world was thrown into this enormous, scary doubt. People all day were glued to their TVs, but doubts increased when the Pentagon got hit and another plane went down in a field in Pennsylvania because of the heroics of the passengers. People were going, what do we do? Where can we go? How do we get out of here? Am I or my area next? Then when the news announced that this was absolutely a terror attack, the doubts in the nation went even deeper. I tell you that story to tell you that the reaction of the people were very different. There were those that went into hiding. They were in fear for their and their families' lives. Some knew they they had to do something. But what? But I think the thing that came out of this moment of beyond belief was that the country turned to God. right after the horror of 9/11, the nation, in their doubt, turned to God. Here's the thing that you must understand, and what Moses learned in the burning bush meeting. God is always there. God is with you. And God is going to see you through your doubts. In other words, God's got your back. Here's the rub, though. This revival, it didn't last long. Once people's doubts started to subside, those who flocked to the church to seek God's help stopped going. This, I understand, is human nature. We seek help when in doubt, when we fear, but relax when we are comfortable. Why? This is a question only yourself can answer. But to me, this is a genie in a bottle type belief. Rub the lamp. Oh God, my life is in turmoil. I need to fix it. When God does what you want, it's great. And sometimes you have to need more rubbing of the lamp. And sometimes you may not get what you want. How is that true faith? Do we not have doubts, fears, pains, struggles every day? But don't we also have joy, relief, and healing every day? It's cool to ask God for help. But in the same light, isn't it good to praise God in our triumphs and peace, tranquility in our lives when we score a touchdown, make a good block? You ever see the one where the soccer goalie blocks the goal and he's all, he's running around, pumping his chest, and the ball had gone straight up in the air? And he's pumping his chest like he had just saved the World Cup, and the ball hits behind him and rolls into the goal. Did he stop? He was praising God when he thought he had stopped it. Do you think he praised God when it went in? John 14:12-14 says this. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing. And they will do even greater things than these. Because I am going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name. So that the Father may be glorified in the Son, you may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. When I read this, I see a God who does not want a wishy-washy believer. He wants one to be there through thick and thin. When they block the goal, or when they score against you. In the good times and the bad. Glory Him in the good. Ask for help in the bad. And when He answers that, we are back to glorifying and praising, right? But doubt, my friends, is a beast. And I know it. I have felt it. I've seen people change the direction of their lives because of it. I've also seen those who have gone through the hardest of circumstances, holding tightly to God's grip on them, asking for help, and come out the other side stronger in their lives. But one more thing, importantly, they found it in their faith in Jesus Christ. Conquering doubt does take courage on your part. Moses had to man up, show true courage, do what God was asking. But we know that courage comes a bit easier when someone has got your back. So if you take anything from this lesson, take courage, my friends, because God does have your back.